All right, Jeff, if you're ready to kick us off.
Sure thing. All right, everybody, thank you for joining tonight. We are excited to offer this program for you, launching your career advice for new professionals. So you're going to hear from a panel of new pros who have entered the field successfully, talking about some of their tips and tricks and their trials and tribulations. And should be a very good discussion. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you tonight. I'm our 2024 Secretary of our Executive Board, and I am really looking forward to what is covered tonight. We can go to our next slide. This is our model antitrust statement. So we read this before all PRSA programs and any of our meetings. And so let's just take a second to everybody read this. If you got any questions, let me know. All right, and we can go to the next slide. And these are our sponsors, and we are greatly appreciative to every one of these organizations. They make all of our programming and all the great things that PRSA Detroit brings to the table possible. What we do would not be possible without them. So, big thanks to everybody you see on your screen here. They're a huge part of what PRSA Detroit does every day. All right. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Sydney and Galena so they can tell you a little bit more about what we have to offer through the New Pros group and more, and get into the discussion.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Galena Rail. I am with Franco. I'm an integrated communication specialist there. I'm also the co-chair for the new professional group with Sydney. And if you haven't already joined the group, you definitely should consider joining. We have a variety of networking and professional development opportunities within the group, and it is a great way to meet others in the industry and make connections. And you guys can learn more and get signed up by scanning the QR code on the screen. So if you haven't already, scan the QR code, and you're more than welcome to reach out to either Sydney or I, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. So this is our Protege program, and it is such an amazing program. And if you're interested in joining or connecting with mid-level and senior level professionals, the Protege program is a great way to get started. So I believe there's a QR code. Yep. So if you scan that QR code, we'll get you connected with a mid-level or senior level professional. And it's a great way to network with others and really get your foot in the door with someone who's been in the industry for a while. So highly recommend that. I know I'm going to get myself signed up for that as well.
All right, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Foster. As Galena mentioned, I am the other co-chair of the New Professionals Group. I am also an associate at 98 Forward, so it's a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. Another great resource from PRSA Detroit is their Member Connect. So if you are a new or returning member or know someone that's looking to learn more about the chapter and your membership, we'd love to help you. So you can feel free to sign up and be introduced to a fellow member using that QR code. And if you're an existing member who would like or is open to welcoming a new or returning member, you can also sign up using that QR code as well. All right. And then if you are at all interested in becoming a member of PRSA Detroit, being an official member gives you access to a lot of things, such as free or discounted events, members only events, the ability to join a committee and serve on the board. And if you're a new professional, this is the perfect time to join, as PRSA Detroit offers discounted rates based on employment status and your years in the profession. So if you're interested in becoming a member and signing up, you can also scan that QR code. I'll leave it up on the screen just for a couple seconds. All right, and with that, we're going to begin our panel. So I would like to start off by introducing our wonderful moderator, Michelle Gilbert. So for those of you that don't know Michelle is the Chief Engine Officer of Purple Engine Coaching and Consulting. She empowers young professionals and emerging leaders to navigate business challenges with strong communication and confidence so they achieve their professional aspirations. Before starting Purple Engine Coaching and Consulting, Michelle spent 34 years building and protecting corporate brands through strategic and impactful internal and external communications. Now, as a certified professional coach, She leverages her communication expertise and passion for helping others grow their own careers. Michelle is also a past president of PRSA Detroit. All right, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? Just perfect. All right, so I'm so excited to be here and have you all join me. We've got 3 professionals who are going to share amazing insights with you. So I'm going to read some brief introductions on them, and then we'll get started. Bianca Kashat is a vehicle communications coordinator with Stellantis. She leads internal communications efforts for their employee lease program. She is a board member of PRSA Detroit and serves on various committees such as internship and blog. She has experience in implementing internal and external communication strategies within the healthcare, higher education, and automotive sectors. Welcome, Bianca, and thank you for being with us. Next, we have Alexandria Truby. She is a senior public relations specialist at Infor, the industry cloud company, where she focuses on fashion and retail, automotive, distribution, and food and beverage. Alexandria works with global teams and has a talent for crafting compelling narratives that resonate with audiences worldwide. She is originally from Indiana, and she moved to Michigan in 2022. Alexandria serves on the blog and annual meeting committees for PRSA Detroit. Welcome, Alexandria, and thanks for being here. And Jessie Johnson is a public relations associate at Rocket Companies. In this role, she helps to tell the variety of stories at Rocket through press releases, creative campaigns, pitches to media, and more, all on a mission to help everyone home. Jessie graduated from Central Michigan University with a Bachelor of Applied Arts in Public Relations and Art History. Welcome, Jessie. Okay, so we're going to get started, and we are going to leave time at the end for a Q&A. So what I would ask you is hold on to your questions and put them in the chat toward the end when we open up the Q&A, or you are welcome at that point to take yourself off mute, raise your hand, and ask live, which we always love. So to start us off, I'd like to ask each panelist to tell us what inspired you to choose your field. And let's start with you, Bianca.
Yeah, so thanks. So my journey in PR wasn't really straightforward. When I started at Wayne State University, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I did have a general interest in marketing. And so a friend, suggested to kind of take a look at public relations. She noticed that I had a knack for problem solving. So I was like, sure, why not? I took a few PR classes and really enjoyed them. Got an internship in PR and kind of just went from there. I really enjoy, using my creative skill set along with strategic thinking. That really brings me in, and my career naturally just kind of went from there.
I love that you acknowledge your journey wasn't straightforward, Bianca. It's so valuable to understand that our professional careers can take so many different twists and turns along the way. Alexandria, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I am like Bianca. I also didn't jump right into PR. I originally studied computer science and engineering. And then I missed reading and writing, so I wanted to focus more on building relationships and talking with people instead of computers. So I have this natural curiosity to ask questions and make connections. So I first started with journalism once I got out of engineering, and then I transferred over to the dark side, as many people call it, of PR, but I'm still in technology, just on the people side of it instead of computers now.
So some may call it the dark side. I like to refer to it as the green side because there's money to be made in PR. And some would argue that's not the case in journalism, just depends. So Jessie, please share with us what inspired you to get into PR.
I also ironically started in journalism. It was a very short stint, only 1 semester in college before I took a PR class and realized I really liked that more creative, like Bianca said, strategic thinking kind of side of it rather than the hard news side. And then it took off from there. So I took those classes and I immediately signed my major right afterwards. And I just really love the ability to think creatively, but also think efficiently is like one of my favorite aspects of it. Like kind of thinking about, well, you might not get the big marketing budget that everyone can have, but you're still very valuable to many, many companies. So I really like that aspect of PR.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And what an ideal career choice based on your passions. It sounds like it's a perfect fit. All right, on to our next question. So being a new professional can certainly come with its challenges. Not only are you starting a new career, but you're trying to nurture your craft. So this question is for everyone. Alexandria, we'll start first with you. How do you practice professional development while navigating a new career?
Yeah, so I will say it's really important to just don't stop seeking out opportunities for learning. I really recommend just look everywhere and find what works best for you and your style of learning, whether it's online classes or certifications, mentoring programs through work or PRSA, attending in-person events or virtual events like this one. There are so many options and they can be found anywhere. I also personally look for moments of learning through my daily interactions at work or just anywhere. I find inspiration in seeing how other people handle situations and communicate through them. I'll give you guys a perfect example. I recently traveled to Pennsylvania for a wedding because it's wedding season. And I heard a stewardess on the plane telling someone, she first said, "I want you to put your tray up." And she corrected herself and said, "I need you to put your tray up." So it's even little moments like that, you can learn something and take something from it and use it.
Absolutely. What a great story. Thank you, Alexandria. Bianca, how about you?
Yeah, so two things. When I first started in my career, I joined PRSA Detroit, but I also continue to learn just like Alexandria. So with PRSA Detroit, it provided me the opportunity to network with other PR professionals across diverse industries. So I've learned about different roles and specialties within the field. And it kind of opened my eyes and helped me learn about what I like. So I like the healthcare industry and automotive, obviously, but I was also, yeah, so I was able to figure out my interests and, expand my network. In addition to that, like Alexandria said, prioritize learning. So staying up to date with industry trends, enhancing your skill set. So like writing or, something I, struggled with and I still do is attention to detail. So what are things that I can do to practice? If you're a newer PR pro and say you want to amp up your writing skills, go into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you give me a prompt and grade it? It's a little, silly, but those are the things that will help. So just a few things that I did to help.
That's great. And if I could just add in there, most companies have a budget for ongoing learning for their employees. So when you find the right thing that you want to do, don't be shy about asking your supervisor, because if it's going to benefit you, it's ultimately going to benefit your company. So Jessie, please share how you build professional development into your very hectic schedule.
Yeah, ironically, I'm actually in New York right now for a conference that my company sent me to that was for like professional development and networking. And then we also had the opportunity to meet with like reporters while we were out here. So I would say definitely take advantage of that if you can, and don't be afraid to ask those questions. But I would also say that social media is a very powerful tool. I utilize LinkedIn like crazy, and I did it throughout college, throughout my internships, and even now. So just like connecting, reaching out. I do that. People reach out to me and like connect. And I think like that's a great way to just expand who you're talking to. And along the same lines, I would also recommend obviously connect with your PR pros, learn from them, but also don't be afraid to branch out. I think there's a lot of value in speaking with people in other professional fields, whether that's like someone close, like a marketing like professional, or someone like in maybe computer science. Like you never know like what you're going to learn from different perspectives and different people. And I think that's really important to also think about as you're going about connecting.
That's great advice. So speaking of professional development, Jessie, you recently graduated from CMU. You moved to Detroit and you started your career at Rocket Companies. How have you managed to maintain professional connections after relocating? I know you talked about LinkedIn and nurturing those relationships. What else are you doing?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. Went to CMU, but my internships were in Boston in person. So I also was networking and connecting with people out there, but then I obviously moved and stayed in Detroit. So I think it's a lot about intentionality. So making sure that yes, you're doing your due diligence and you're connecting on LinkedIn, but you want to go a step beyond to maintain those relationships, because a LinkedIn connection is great as a great start, but you have to continue to build on those relationships, especially if you already made the connection. So, I mean, again, with like social media, but not necessarily LinkedIn, like I just had a friend who posted on her Snapchat story that she moved jobs in the PR field. So I reached out to her directly and was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting for you. Like, I'd love to learn more, just to like learn her perspective and her journey in PR. And then that also helps our relationship because she's like, okay, well, Jessie, she cares, you know? And so I think it's just important to like, just show that the people that you've connected with previously, that you still care and you're not just like moving on whenever you take a new job or move locations. And that can really help you. Like if you wanted to go back to that location or back to that job, leveraging those connections so it's not an out of the blue like LinkedIn message is always really helpful.
You're bringing up such valuable points. Relationships are so important to getting your next job, especially I'm hearing so much now with artificial intelligence. It's hard to get the best of the best resumes through AI. But if you have connections and they can hand deliver your resume and put it on the right desk, it's not guaranteed to get you the job, but it's probably going to get your resume at least looked at. So, Bianca, as a board member of PRSA Detroit, you're involved in multiple committees and you still manage to pursue work and a personal life. So talk to us about how you balance it all and practice a healthy work-life balance.
Yeah, to be honest, it's not too challenging just because I do enjoy the work. When I joined PRSA Detroit, I was really intentional and I joined committees that I really cared about. So that helps. Also, to stay organized, I rely on my personal calendar. So if I need to post a certain blog post or follow up with somebody, I will put it on my Google Calendar, just so, you know, I'm on top of it. And I also maintain, you know, a to-do list, and I have specific deadlines next to each task, and I check on it on a regular basis. I also make a clear distinction between, you know, work and personal life. So after, you know, 4:30, 5-ish, I'm not going to go back, you know, on the computer to do work. I'm going to relax, do things that I'm interested in, whether it be playing a video game or, you know, working out, whatever it is, I reserve that time for myself. So, yeah, those are a few things that I do to stay organized and have a healthy work-life balance.
Well, and I can attest as well that it can be incredibly meaningful to volunteer through PRSA Detroit, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to connect with others in the industry. So, Alexandria, Infor is a global leader in business cloud software products for companies in specific markets, and you work in a virtual setting. So can you share how you manage to stay on top of duties in a remote environment?
Yeah. So being a remote worker comes with many perks and challenges. Like you mentioned, Infor is a global company, so I work with colleagues in all time zones. That means communication can be a little bit asynchronous and updates may come at, odd hours of the morning or in the night. My main method to stay on top of everything is to focus on those high value opportunities and fiercely prioritize. If I know that there is an interview coming up that I need to spend all of my time and energy on, some things do get pushed to the side, and that's okay because I'm focusing on what I am differentiated to do very well, and the other tasks can sometimes wait. Also, if I know that I'm going to be traveling or occupied with a highly demanding project for a while, I will tag emails in my inbox as unread or go ahead and draft just a couple bullet points of a response and save it so that I know that I need to come back to it when I do have the time and more bandwidth. I try not to let things slip through the cracks, but I do have ways of just making sure that I come back to the things that I might have pushed off for a little bit.
It sounds like you've really developed a great process for staying organized and motivated in a virtual environment. So thank you for sharing.
Of course.
All right. So Bianca and Jessie, this question is for you. What was an unexpected challenge that you faced in your career, and how did you navigate it and learn from it? Bianca, let's start with you.
Yeah, so something that I learned really early on is you're gonna deal with a lot of different opinions and difficult personalities. You're not gonna, work well with everyone. And in the beginning, I took that really personal. I was like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't like me. They don't, agree with what I'm saying. And it kind of leads to self-doubt. And you feel out of place and you question yourself and you're like, do I belong here? And you go into a spiral. But I kind of just told myself like, hey, like this is normal. It's okay. It's good to have diverse viewpoints. Whether it's, a certain project or strategy, whatever it is, it's okay. But the key is to just don't avoid conflict. What's important is how you respond to it. So I learned to just accept it. It is what it is. It's kind of like, you can't change a person unless they want to change. So you accept it for what it is. And you just focus on being constructive and having that, that transparent conversation. So doing this and just telling myself these things really helps me navigate conflicts more efficiently. And I've been able to continue, progressing my career. And yeah.
I love that you shared this, regardless of what profession we're in and what level we're at, we all deal with conflict from time to time. And it's so important to know how to manage it with grace, as well as to understand that it's typically not personal. It is just business. So Jessie, how about you?
Yeah, so kind of along the same lines, but I definitely went through like brainstorms and different like creative ideations, and I would share an idea, and in my head I'm like, this is the greatest idea ever. We're definitely going to do this and it's going to be great. And it just like didn't land with leadership or like whoever I was in the room with. And it was definitely difficult to learn to like not really take those moments personally. Because again, like Bianca, like I would spiral, like, are my ideas not creative enough? In a creative field, like this is what I do. So I think it was definitely a learning experience to learn how to adapt and pivot. Something I thought I was really, really good at in college, but learned definitely as I entered my professional career that it can feel a little taxing sometimes, especially my team particularly, we go into a lot of brainstorms. And it's something consistently that we do. So we're consistently either getting like, not like necessarily shot down, but just like, I don't think that's like a good fit for this campaign or something like that. So learning to adapt and pivot and try and think, how can we marry what I want to do and what the team's goals are and maybe what everyone else in the room is thinking. And if you can't do that, that's also okay. I think that was also a learning experience of, I don't need to be perfect. Every idea doesn't need to be like the best thing ever. And that's kind of the beauty of a brainstorm and learning.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. And that's what brainstorming is. And who's to say that the idea that you threw out there isn't what sparked the idea that was actually selected? So thank you for that valuable and important advice. Okay, so growing up with social media has given your generation, I say your generation, those of you who would be considered young professionals, which I am not, it's given your generation unique thoughts and skills. So how do you think this background has prepared you for the digital age of communication in your professional lives? Alexandria, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a great source of knowledge and connection. It gives all of us the ability to find and share quick information. I mean, that information's at your fingertips, and it's wonderful. Growing up with social media has also given us all a bit of practice to create photo, video, written content in, even with Twitter and X, a short limit on what you can write. So it has prepared at least me personally to work with those integrated teams and collaborate well with my counterparts in both social and creative.
Thank you for that. How about you, Jessie?
Yeah, so I would say growing up with social media has definitely helped me to understand audiences better. I think because we've been kind of around constant chatter and opinions, we can kind of guess a little bit more what specific audiences might be thinking or feeling, or at least access that information pretty quickly or know where to find it. So that has definitely helped me. I work a little bit on the social media side in my role, and my internships were in social media, actually in healthcare during COVID and all of that. So I think kind of tuning into those different audiences on social media and what platforms they go to and all of that was definitely very helpful in my role.
Okay, wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit about culture. And Alexandria, you brought it up earlier, but I'd like to come back to it. How important has company culture been as you've started and progressed through your careers? Bianca, would you mind answering that question first?
Yeah, so company culture is one of the most important aspects to consider when, you're looking for a job. And I didn't realize this at least for a few years in. So it's really important to observe how people are treating you during the interview process, whether it be through an email or over the phone or in person. And even say you get the job the first day, the first few weeks, even the first few months, kind of pay attention to that. Say you make a mistake, how are they treating you? Are they, supportive and encouraging, or are they passive aggressive and they're just mean? Pay attention to those things because it's really important. If you're not treated with respect, you'll be unhappy for sure. Unless you have a personality where you don't take things to heart. You'll just dread going to work and you're not going to enjoy it. So for me, positive company culture is essential just for personal well-being and your professional growth.
Well said, and I couldn't agree with you more. Alexandria, is there anything that you can add, particularly because you are virtual?
Yeah, so company culture in a remote environment, it's a bit different than what you'd imagine for in-person workplaces. I wish that I could take part in some of those company outings, but our company culture and principles still play a role in my day-to-day activities and interactions. For example, we are encouraged to develop well-designed experiments that help us learn quickly. And we're also encouraged to respectfully challenge and brainstorm to find better ways of doing things. When a team feels comfortable offering those new ideas, kind of like what Bianca and Jessie were saying earlier, when you feel comfortable to do that, and you share the same vision, it helps everybody achieve better results together.
It sounds like Infor has really developed a strong culture for all of its employees.
Agreed.
So this is my favorite question because we all experience imposter syndrome, that uncomfortable feeling when you think that you're not qualified. Bianca, you touched upon this earlier, so I'm going to start with you. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, what are some ways you've managed or overcome those feelings?
Yeah, so Michelle, like you said, everyone will go through it. The idea that you can't do something or you're not capable of doing something. So for me, it's important to notice when the thoughts come through and to tell yourself that these are just thoughts. It doesn't mean that it's true. And you can even challenge them. So for instance, when I am dealing with it, it always comes as, what if I can't do this? Or what if this person is thinking this? It always comes as a what if. It's not like an actual fact. And I didn't realize I was doing this until my therapist and coach brought it up in our sessions. And they're like, hey, Bianca, like we noticed you were saying what if a lot. And it didn't happen. So, you know, they challenged me to question these thoughts. Like, is it true? Is it not true? You don't know. So, really just relying on yourself and reassuring yourself, like, okay, I can do it. Just try. And if you fail, that's okay. Just get back up. Um, you know, so that's what I do. And also just having a really great support system. Because sometimes when you try to tell yourself, I'm okay, I can do it, it's hard. And as cheesy as it sounds, you need that support system that'll tell you like you actually can. Because it's so much easier to support someone else versus yourself. So that's how I tackle it.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome, you know, you hit it. It stems from the stories we tell ourselves, the assumptions that we make, and our own limiting beliefs. And it sounds like you've really raised your consciousness so that you can address those feelings and reframe what those stories are. Great. So we all know communication professional's phone is never turned off, but it is important to make time for ourselves. So Alexandria, can you share a little bit about what self-care looks like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two camps of self-care, and that's productive self-care and relaxing or my fun self-care. So that productive self-care includes things like, catching up on bills, scheduling appointments, laundry, just that kind of adulting thing that you have to do. It's usually the things that I might have pushed off for a little bit because I've been busy with work or, just higher priority things. Then the relaxing and fun self-care, that's the reading, going to concerts or events I've been looking forward to, or just even sitting outside. It's really important to take time for yourself and recharge. Earlier this year, I had some health challenges, and when you go through things like that, it really puts things into perspective and makes you slow down and take that time for yourself. Sometimes you really just have to listen to your body and go on a midday walk or put your phone in personal focus mode in the evenings or while you're on vacation, or block your calendar for an hour or so for physical therapy appointments. I'm a workaholic, so I know it can be really hard to take a step back, but it's really important and necessary to take care of yourself so that you can take care of business.
So I've never heard of laundry being on a self-care list. I think my idea would be to pay my 16-year-old to do the laundry. But I loved all your ideas around the relaxing self-care. So fantastic advice. Jessie, this next question is for you. What is the most interesting trend you've noticed since the beginning of your career?
Yeah, so I think it's just interesting how I would say I'm going back to social media, I'm sorry guys, but just how interesting that whole world has been for us. I mean, traditionally PR didn't involve that social media component, and learning how to communicate with those audiences and just responding to speed. I think now a lot of people are looking for instant responses and are expecting responses. I mean, no comment is, I feel like, becoming less and less of a thing now. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media and that demand for answers and explanations. And I think it's okay for audiences to demand that from brands, but that does change how we maybe think about our jobs and how we're moving throughout the industry. So I think that's been a really interesting shift in response, and just demanding more from brands, and the brands responding correctly.
Yeah, I remember when I first started in PR, there was no such thing as a brand influencer. So I too will be interested in watching the evolution of where this takes us. All right, so we have one more question for everybody, and then we are going to open it up to all of you to ask all of your burning and pressing questions for our three panelists, or for me if you have one. So start coming up with your ideas, but to close us out, what is one piece of advice you would give to other new professionals as they navigate their careers? So Bianca, let's start with you.
Yeah, so when you are starting any new job, I really encourage you to take the time to learn about the company and the role before you start proposing your own ideas. Really, learn how the teams function, how the organization functions. So it'll be easier for you to make improvements later on. This approach shows that you care, and that you want to contribute thoughtfully versus just, making changes immediately.
Great advice. Thank you for that. Alexandria, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I will just add that you are your own biggest advocate. Keep track of your projects, your contributions, and the results that you drive, because that will be helpful in conversations about promotions and growth opportunities later down the line. Also, if there are projects that you want to get involved in, speak up, seek out those opportunities, and just continue to advocate for yourself.
Yes, raise your hand. People who raise their hands definitely get noticed. And Jessie, what do you have to share?
I would say definitely don't be afraid to push some boundaries. I think kind of along the lines of speaking up and being your own advocate, it is important to realize that your voice definitely matters, and professionals are looking for our voices to be heard as younger professionals. I mean, we're coming in with maybe a different perspective. So don't be afraid to raise your hand, share your ideas. You don't know. No one's a mind reader, so you never know what's going to be the thing that they don't even know that they're looking for. So I would definitely say push those boundaries, raise your hand, and just kind of get your foot in the door that way.
Excellent advice. Outstanding advice from all three of you. Thank you so very much. So now let's open it up for your questions. And I see we do have one in the chat. So I am going to give you all the grace of an extra minute, and we'll go to the question in the chat. This is from, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Lazarus? Hopefully I got that right. It says, do you
Yes, you
see...
did.
I did? Okay, good. Do you see age bias discrimination in the PR industry? You said, I'm an older person returning to the workforce yourself. So I'm gonna let our panelists weigh in first if you have anything to add, and then I can certainly share something.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jessie.
Well, I was gonna say I can jump in here just really quickly. I think I'm in my own little echo chamber sometimes, and I am around a lot of younger professionals. However, what I have seen is I think there's a lot of different ways to maybe phrase roles throughout the PR industry. So maybe an agency role is phrased a little different than a role in like a corporate role. So, I mean, for example, right now, like my team's hiring a manager. And so that role is within like our structure a little bit differently than maybe like it would be at an agency. So we are getting a lot of professionals who've had like a lot of experience in the industry applying for that role, but it's on us to make sure that they understand exactly what we're looking for. So I haven't seen that personally on my team. I think we have a really wide range of agents on our team, both externally and internally. But I think it is interesting to kind of see, for the first time, I'm seeing like just the differences in how roles are explained in the PR field and how that impacts who's applying.
Thank you for that, Jessie. Anyone else? Alexandria or Bianca, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll add a little bit just from, I have worked at an agency and in corporate. So, like Jessie said, that it does look a little bit different sometimes. When I first worked at an agency, everybody was closer to my age. There were some more senior members who were in leadership, for example, but most of my team was around my age, which was honestly kind of comforting when you first graduate college, and being able to be nervous in front of, people who have maybe recently had those similar experiences and can talk about college days, like they were just a couple years ago with them too. Now, when I moved over to corporate, everybody on my team when I first got here had at least 10 plus years on me, and that was a little different. And I think, kind of going back to imposter syndrome a little bit, I was nervous being, so green compared to my counterparts. But honestly, many of them took me in and were very open and able to give me some advice. You just have to be open to it and ask questions and kind of get over that imposter syndrome, and be willing to be green, be willing to learn. I will say I have seen some people just throughout my career, whether it's I've worked with them or just in passing, I've heard, comments like, oh, they're very green. And in some ways, yeah, I might be green because I've had 6 months of experience on the job. I'm straight out of college. So I don't know that it's necessarily age discrimination, but it does get noticed, and how you carry yourself definitely is seen.
So I'm going to add something to that, and it's fascinating to hear the answers from Jessie and Alexandria, because the way you interpreted the question is very different from me, and I think it shows just the difference in generation. I think there is age discrimination out there for older people who are trying to get back into the workforce. And I don't think that it is just PR. I think it is everywhere. I have a former colleague who is in her late 50s, early 60s, and she's incredibly qualified, and she is being overlooked for jobs. And I don't know if it's because of what her salary requirements are. I don't know if it's because they're making assumptions that maybe she's not going to stick around for long. While age discrimination is illegal, I think it can be very, very challenging to prove. So, Lazarus, if you want to chat more about this at some point, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to give you a couple of tips or pointers, just to guide you if you would like. Okay, let's see. All right, Galena asks, what's your dream PR job? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? So I anticipate all three of our panelists are going to want to answer that. Let's start with, I don't know, who looks the most excited? Jessie.
Yeah, I would just say that my dream PR job, I'm a very passionate person. I will throw myself into projects and whatever I'm doing. So my dream job would just be feeling like I'm making a real difference and my work is contributing positively to either the community, the industry, whatever I'm working in. I would just want to feel like I'm really truly helping people by telling these stories, because at the end of the day, we are storytellers. And so if I'm not passionate or if I don't feel comfortable telling those stories, I think that's where I'd feel maybe pigeonholed in a job that I don't want to be in. But I think there are so many opportunities out there, and I feel like I'm doing that right now in my job. I mean, homeownership's a huge issue right now. So just being able to help and tell those stories and speak with clients and learn about their lives and how we've made a difference, or maybe we haven't made a difference, is really interesting.
Thank you for that. Alexandria or Bianca, you want to share your dream job with us? If your
Sure.
boss is on, you should say, I'm in it.
I don't think John joined today, but I will say I think that my dream PR job is doing more of what I'm doing right now. I want to, continue to build relationships with journalists, and, with time that comes, I want to be working with the media. I want to be telling those meaningful stories. I want to continue working with global teams and getting those different perspectives. I think 5 to 10 years, I would love to be managing some people. I love sharing knowledge and hearing stories and just being able to connect with people. And I think that being able to share my experiences and lead a team would be really fun.
It is fun. Bianca, how about you?
Yeah, I don't have like a specific industry, but really just I do enjoy internal communications, maybe in the corporate or nonprofit industry or sector. But I really want to be part of a creative and collaborative environment, really, which that means is, are my ideas being accepted? Are they being encouraged? And am I getting feedback from it? And are people willing to listen to me, essentially? So really just being part of a team that is open-minded and that does give me the opportunity to be creative. I don't want to be a part of a team that's just like do this, 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 and this without that creativity. And like, Alexandria said, maybe possibly, leading a team and sharing those tips and that knowledge. That's where I kind of see it. So yeah, that's what I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So our next question comes from, and I'm going to, please tell me if I'm not pronouncing correctly. Is it Ayanalet?
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome. Okay. So Ayanalet asks, what advice would you give someone looking to gain experience in the PR field who's transitioning from a sales background? So I can definitely weigh in, but I want to give our panelists a chance to answer that if you have some insight.
I would just say that, I mean, I don't have a sales background, so I can only speak so much on this, but I think in PR, I've noticed that a lot of just personalities, like we are very like normally extroverted people or like looking to make those personal connections and relationship build, and also share stories. And I think a lot of that could be from like a sales component as well, of like building those relationships and just like making your client, customer, whoever, other brands happy, is also a priority for us as well. So I could see how easily how someone with a sales background could fit right into PR.
There are a lot of skills that transfer, that is for sure. I work with a lot of sales teams, and sometimes I meet with people who think they want to switch over to PR. I meet PR people who want to switch over to sales, marketing, and PR. We're all, kind of interconnected sometimes. And I would just say, if you're looking at going into PR from sales, I feel like a lot of salespeople think, you do identify the needs of the customer. PR does that as well. We think about the business problems. I'm thinking B2B myself, but it could be a consumer. What does the consumer want to hear as well? So I think switching from maybe like, what can I sell you? What do you need, to telling the story and looking at their brand, their messaging. A lot of the PR work is just getting down to what is the story and how can we tell it?
Bianca, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'd also say just, and it's really hard to do this, but just put yourself out there, make the connections, go on LinkedIn. Like for instance, you guys joined this panel and you can add us on LinkedIn, and maybe one day we could, help you get a job or put you in contact with someone that's hiring. And it's hard. Like Michelle said, put your hand up and you'll get noticed. Yeah.
And one thing that I'll add, Ayanalet, that I think you can do in your current company is ask if you can spend a day shadowing someone from the PR team. A lot of times organizations will provide opportunities for you to volunteer or participate in a project, or even shadow to learn the industry a little bit. And sometimes if someone goes out on, whether it's a maternity leave or a sick leave or something like that, and they need someone to fill in, they look for those growth opportunities to let you fill in for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So those are wonderful opportunities to kind of dip your toe in and figure out, is this really what you want, with the safety of keeping your other job? The last thing that I will say is that I agree 100% that selling and PR have a lot of similarities. And what I would tell you is that PR is selling. It's just selling in a different way. Every day, people in PR are trying to sell their ideas. They're trying to sell their stories. It's just the way in which they do it is a little bit different. Okay, so let's see. Gabrielle asks, how did you know which career move or company was the right fit for you? So I'm gonna let our panelists duke it out to see who wants to take the lead.
I can start if that's okay. I really like with everything, I always think about the purpose and I always think about my goals and just being really intentional. Does this job align with my goals? Am I going to do things that I really enjoy, or am I just taking the job just to take the job? So kind of just say you get an offer, really think about it. Are these things like, do they align with what I want to do? And then kind of just go from there, and then you'll know. It also goes back to the culture. Are they treating me okay? Are they treating me with respect? Are we having, constructive conversations? So those are two, things that I consider.
Awesome advice. Anyone else want to weigh in?
I'll weigh in. So I think it depends at what stage you're looking at. But for me, when I was getting out of, computer science engineering, it was because I wanted to work more with people. It was because I wanted to write. I wanted to tell stories. So, of course, I found journalism first, and then I switched over to PR. But thinking and identifying what you want to do less of and what you want to do more of, that's step one. And, then you can kind of adventure and see what's out there.
I will also add that there are some outstanding resources, values exercises, skills exercises. And if you can identify the values that are most important to you and the skills that you possess, sometimes that makes it very crystal clear in terms of what career, what kind of position, even what kind of company that you're looking for. So Sydney has her hand up. Is that a question? Because I know we're not at time yet.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Well, to start off, thank you guys. This has been so insightful. And as a new professional, I just love hearing all of this, this conversation. So I guess my question would be, being a new professional, this has been touched on so far, but it's hard to feel like sometimes you have a seat at that table, especially with your leadership. But what is kind of your recommendation or the way you go about kind of communicating your needs to leadership, whether it be a capacity need, professional need, or even a client need?
I can take this one first. Actually, so just for some background, the conference I was at was actually through Meltwater, which if for those familiar, like it helps with like alerts and all of that kind of stuff. But there was one panel talking about like specifically Gen Z in the workplace and like how we kind of function. And I think one of the main messages out of that conversation was Gen Z is a generation that really does want to be taken seriously, but maybe hasn't always felt like they are taken seriously. And so it was kind of that, I don't want to say like fake it till you make it, but just like kind of exude that confidence that you might not necessarily have in that moment, but when you walk into that room, it's like, I am the most serious person in this room, like no matter who the executive is, maybe what their position is, like and just kind of come prepared, because that also helps with like being taken, whatever you're asking, whatever you're like presenting, being taken seriously. I mean, I had like a presentation for our CEO and I got like super dressed up and our CEO came in jeans. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, do I feel a little ridiculous? Maybe, but like I came prepared, I came serious and like ready for the moment. And that didn't go unnoticed either in like a positive way. So I would just say like, try and exude that confidence as much as possible, even if you're not feeling it in that moment. Listen to hype music, like tell yourself affirmations, like hang out with people who like build you up, because that really does like translate into your workplace, no matter what you're asking.
Anyone else have some advice for Sydney?
Yeah, I can go ahead. I would say, and this is gonna be really hard, but just do it. If you want to do something, if you want to work on a certain project, just ask and just push yourself to do it. Because your boss can't read your mind. And if you want to be a part of it, they unless like you've mentioned it, they don't know. And remind yourself that they're just another person. They might seem intimidating, but they're a person. And something that an old boss told me once, that really stuck with me, and this is not a negative at all from what I took, is everyone puts on their shoes the same way. We're all people. So it's not like I'm better than you because you're the CEO, so, or they're better than me, whatever it is. Just really pushing yourself, and and it's easier because if you have a supportive boss, you'll feel more comfortable if you have that relationship. But really just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and just advocating, like Alexandria mentioned earlier, for what you need and what you want.
And Sydney, I will just chime in real quick here. Just remember that you were hired on for a reason. They hired you on to give your input, to give your ideas, and just take the risk, right? I mean, we were all saying that we've been vulnerable in situations where we've given ideas and maybe they're not used, or you got to know, but the worst they can say is no, right? So just remember that you were brought in for a reason.
Thank you.
Beautifully said. All right. So Austin typed in a question. When starting a new job, what other types of resources can I use besides asking a supervisor for help? Who wants to tackle that one? And maybe Austin, if you don't mind coming off camera, if you are willing to maybe give a little bit more detail around maybe specifically the type of help, it might help us determine how to answer it.
Yeah, so basically when I'm asking is when I'm like new at a job, like I tend to like go and ask my supervisor like little steps and pieces. I was mainly looking for other things so I can help myself learn the job better without constantly relying on my supervisor and bothering him from his work.
Yeah, I can just like really quickly say I definitely experienced that when I came in. I mean, I work in mortgages and tech, which are not things that I came from or like I knew anything about really when I came into it. So I definitely leaned on my coworkers who had like maybe been at the company a little bit longer, either just for like process steps or like, hey, what is this type of mortgage? Like, I'm not quite sure. And then honestly, I used a lot of like Chat GPT stuff. Like, so like I would link back to maybe like our like company handbook that was like 1 million pages long, and I would just be like, find me the place where I can set up like my healthcare, and then it would like pull it for me. So I would definitely say like there may be more resources than you might think, but obviously there are sometimes questions that like only your supervisor can answer, and that's okay too. But just leaning on the people around you and like the resources like a ChatGPT, a Google, a company handbook, and all of that can be really helpful as well.
And if I can just add, Austin, you can ask, there's probably an industry publication that you can read to start learning the industry a little bit better. Find out what newsletters your colleagues are subscribing to, because once you start reading it more and more, you'll understand the jargon. I remember when I joined Comcast, it took me about 6 months to understand all of the acronyms they used. I remember sitting in a meeting and thinking, I think I actually understood about 75% of what they said. And that was after 6 months. So it can be really challenging to join a new industry and to be trying to do your job and to be effective. And there's all of this stuff you feel like you're kind of running up a hill in flip-flops. So your boss's job is to support you and to be a resource. And it's great that you're sensitive to that. And even putting, asking for maybe a regular check-in where you can save up your questions and get 15 minutes once a week just to ask those questions might be a good strategy as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this question comes from Chelsea, and it's specific to Alexandria. Working in a remote position, do you find it hard to connect with your team on any levels? How do you build camaraderie from a remote position?
Yep. So I will just be very transparent, and it can be hard sometimes to build that camaraderie in a remote position. And, I said earlier, some of my teammates are on the total opposite time zone from me. So some of my colleagues in the Asian countries, I really don't interact with them much because maybe they can't make a lot of the calls that I'm on. But I do what I can. I try to set some time aside to have just like a little lunch conversation from time to time. I know we're all very busy, but it is important to try to set some time aside. Just say, hey, I want to pick your brain for a little bit. I, in my environment, try to have some, hey, this is a task that's going on. This is a project. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let me pick your brain for some ideas. And I'll slide in some just personal questions and see how they're doing, what's going on in their life, because it's important to build those relationships. And I think Jessie said it earlier, just be genuine and be warm and like want to connect with those people. I had a previous team who had a group chat outside of work that was on WhatsApp, so it could be global in nature, but it was just fun things. No work talk at all. Send pictures of your vacation, send pictures of your kids, whatever's going on in your life. So there are ways to do it virtually. You just have to be intentional and set those times aside. And it's great if you can meet them in person. I met one person in like the first 2 years of working at my current company, and it feels kind of weird to see somebody in person after so long, but if you can, take those opportunities as well.
Thank you for that. So I don't think I've missed any questions in the chat. Oh, and here's one. Ayanalet, how do you all handle crisis situations at work? Ooh, that's a meaty question.
Michelle. I can start. Just it goes back to your needs. So kind of just advocating for yourself, saying like, hey, like, I need this, I need your support. So if I'm struggling with something, if something's going down, I just go to my manager, and just tell them what's going on and make a plan and kind of just go from there. I know that's really vague, but that's how I usually handle it. And I think if you have a really good a really good relationship with your manager and a supportive manager, it'll all be okay. And they'll help you feel better about the situation. That's for sure.
Just to like piggyback, there's definitely, I've been at my current company for 1.5 years now, and we've had a few, like, I wouldn't say full on crisis, but just like moments of like, oh, like that was a really bad article about us. Like, how do we go about like either fixing that narrative, or if it's honestly, if it's true, like how do we fix ourselves internally? But I will say, like, working at a larger company, we do have like a crisis comms plan in place. So like a strategy of just like, okay, if it's kind of like a flow chart, if this happens, like go here. Do we need to involve legal? Like that kind of, those questions we've mapped out in a strategy, and that's been really helpful. So, especially as like someone who's newer in the company, and like maybe my like manager's out and like we have to handle something, it is nice to kind of have that in place and already approved by the right like sources. So it's not it doesn't have to be more stressful than it might already be.
I'll just say crisis comms as a whole, it's a team effort. You cannot have one person doing all of it, and you also don't want to have 50 people doing it. So finding that right balance, I will just say that it is a team effort. Identify who is suited for that kind of a situation, and good luck.
So we probably have time for one additional question. If anyone has it, you could feel free to come off mute. No other questions?
I'll ask a final question.
Okay.
I don't know if we've already asked this or touched on this, but like, what is your favorite part about your jobs? Favorite part about PR, the industry in general?
I can go first.
Go ahead, Jessie.
Okay. I just really love, I mean, part of the reason too I wanted to go into PR was because most companies, organizations, nonprofits need some form of PR. So I really did love the idea of like that freedom of I could work in this profession that I really love, like the creativity and all of that, but I could do it for anything and do it for like any industry. So like I just really loved like that kind of idea of freedom, but still doing the job that I like to do. And I think that's like something really underrated about PR is like, yeah, most companies need some form of it. So it allows for that ability of like to pick your interests and move around if it's not your interest as well.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, I think I'm going to hand it back to Sydney and Galina to close us out.
Great. Yeah. Well, this concludes the panel, and we thank everyone for coming out today. And thank you, Michelle. We appreciate your time. You did a fabulous job. Some really good questions and some really great answers. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we would love, if you haven't already, connect with people who are here on LinkedIn and get signed up for PRSA and the New Professionals group. It's a great way to get involved and to meet other people. And I know we want you to join. We want to help you get started in your career and just connect with others. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to Sydney and I, and as well as the other panelists as well. So we really appreciate all of you coming out today, and you guys are more than welcome as well to connect with us on social media or social media channels. So we do have an Instagram and we're on LinkedIn. We have a private LinkedIn group, and then we also have a private Facebook group. So make sure to get on those as well. So Sydney, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but that's all that I have.
No, just thank you to the panelists, to Michelle, to everyone for joining us. I think this went really well, and it was great to hear all your insights on everything. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.